Hey guys, how's everything going? This is JSer. In this video, I'm going to solve another problem from BFE.dev. It's called create an interval. It's number 83 from from BFE.dev. It's supposed to be from ByteDance. You're asked to create a new mySetInterval, which has a different behavior from setInterval. The time between calls is a linear function, growing larger and larger. Okay, this is an example. This function actually logs the time gap between each calls, right? And we set a mySetInterval with function 100 and 200. So the first log would be after 100 plus 200 times 0, 100 milliseconds later. And then the gap should be 100 plus 200, so 300 later, which is 400. And then 500 later, so it's 900. And then 700 later, so 1.6 seconds. And then we could clear the interval. Great, let's begin. So obviously we cannot use setInterval because setInterval is constant. We could just use the setTimeout, and after the function is called, so we set another timeout with a larger and larger timeout, right? And then trigger the function again. So each call combining the function call of this func and the timeout setup will be wrapped up into a function called, I will name it run. What you will call the function and then set timeout with and call the run itself again with a delay plus period times count, right? But the count should be incremented, and we need to keep track of the count where somewhere else. Let's say count is here equals 0. And what we do, we actually for the first round we need to call the we need to set a timeout with a delay only, right? So we set timeout round with delay. Okay, if that's the case, the first count we need to set it to 1, right? Yeah, I think 0 is better, and then we count it like this, which is much better. It means the count actually is is this. The first 0 is already used here, and okay, we don't need this. I think we could use the period here also. Yeah, it doesn't matter. If that's the case, we could use just increment this. This one is better, I think. So first we update the count both for the round and the first round. First one is with the delay, and the count should be 0. And then when we call it, the count should be 1. Okay, this should work half. Yeah, you see, the first one is working, but the clear doesn't. We haven't implemented the clear yet, right? So the clear is here. The clear, we need to return the ID. We forgot to return the ID, but here's a problem. The setTimeout ID actually returns a unique ID. Once we return, we cannot clear them anymore, right? So in order for this to work, we need to actually keep track of the first the setTimeout ID, native ID, together with the virtual ID, which is the internal ID, right? So this is actually this is the, I could say this is the a first ID, a timer, and then this is the virtual timer. When it's done, we could clear them. So any time there will be only 1-to-1 mapping, right? So I could create a map to hold it. And that's kind of weird. So because this is my setInterval and we code an instance here, that's not cool. Allow me to create an instance and wrap it up. Okay. Say my interval instance equals we wrap it up, use the immediate invoked function, and we have a map in it. Okay, now we have function set interval with this one, right? Set interval. We count it and we run it, and we wait a minute. We run it, say timeout, and we need to return the ID. Okay, they say I set it, and then we map set ID. Set it to what? Okay, we set interval. We get the initial. This is the initial ID. Yeah, and I think I need just to return the ID. Yeah, and then we need to set the map set ID with the next ID. Next ID. How can I set the next ID? Maybe we don't set here, but when we return the ID, yeah, I see. When it's run, we just set it out, right? So map set ID. Okay, we create a next ID, and map set ID, next ID. But the ID is defined here, so it's not cool. Allow me to move it upward. When we set an interval, okay, we count it, and then we keep calling the run, and this is the initial ID, and we return it, and each time we run call a function, we set the ID with the next ID, so we chain them up. So there will be two IDs we need to clear, right? And okay, so now when we set an interval, we will just call the my instance. Okay, and we forgot to return the function. And set interval. Okay, instance set interval, func, delay, and period. Now the clear, we do the same. We relay the function call to the instance, which is clear interval with the ID. Now we will create the function clear interval stuff ID. Okay. The first thing is the ID is actually a native ID. If it is there, we need to clear them, right? So, in case that the first timeout is not yet run, so we clear timeout ID, and then if map has this ID, we will clear another timeout, right? So window clear timeout, map get ID, and then we delete it. Okay, I think that's it. No, run before initialization. Where run? This is run. I'm sorry. Just to wrap it up. It's okay. Window clear timeout is not function. Oh, I'm sorry. Timeout. Oh. Timeout. Something wrong? Okay, we run set timeout 100 and then 200. We clear at 50. It certainly, because the first run is cancelled, so we should not gain anything. Obviously, the return. Obviously, the clear doesn't work. Clear interval. Return I. Did we return the right ID? Okay. Oh, time is up. It's short, man. Okay, clear timeout. If map has ID, we clear the next ID, and we delete the ID. What's wrong? What's wrong? I forgot to return the ID. Yeah, great. So yeah, this is kind of interesting. I'll submit it and post it on the discussion panel. Okay. Let's just review our code one more time. I'll wrap the logic up. Wrap up the logic. Map the initial timer to the ongoing timer. And this is the interval we counted, and this is the initial timer. Create next timer and map it up. Return the ID, clear both the initial and ongoing timer. So yeah, okay, that's it. I hope it helps. See you next time. Bye bye.